a badge of honor. So the guy joining us next, the opposite. I love this guy. I've been a fan of his music for, I don't know, going on 30 years now. His name is Richard Patrick. He's the lead singer of the very successful alternative rock band Filter, formerly a founding member of 9 Nails, and Richard joins us right now. Richard, it's great to see you, my friend. How you doing?
Thank you for having. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very good, loud and clear, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, life is great. We just got back from a huge tour across the world, and we went to Europe and all of the UK and Australia and Auckland, and it was pretty amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah, I remember talking to you about that, and people love your music all over the world. I want to start by asking you this, a political question, because we've had conversations about this. You're a liberal guy, and you don't apologize for it, and you shouldn't. You're on the right side of history. And
Right.
at times you've spoken out against Donald Trump, even in your music.
Yeah.
And you've told me that you've lost fans because of that. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Well, sadly, it's just gotten so tumultuous, this political environment that we're in, that when I say things like F Trump or whatever, I even in Australia, there was a guy that we have a song called American Cliche, and I replaced some of the lyrics with, instead of saying get on the bus, I say F Donald Trump. And he literally was in the audience, and we have it on video. He like takes his filter hat off, and he has his phone, and he like flips off the hat and then flips me off and then gets mad and he's all mad. And I'm like, it's just my political opinion, dude. It's punk rock. Like, does anyone remember punk rock? Like Joe Strummer, John Lennon, Al Jorgensen from Ministry.
Yeah.
I said the same thing about George Bush during the Iraq War. I thought the Iraq War was made up bullcrap, and it was a fight for oil. It was a land grab.
Which it was.
Yeah. And
right.
I was right about it. And,
And you've also performed overseas for free for the troops. You've done a lot for our brave men and women in uniform. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your former bass player served, and
Frank Kavanaugh, who's a regular on Alex Jones's show.
Yeah, isn't that ironic?
That's bizarre.
That is. I mean, but isn't it sad that we live in a world now where when you're on the right side of history, or even if you disagree with somebody, that they're not going to buy your music or go to your show, or they'll flip you off like what happened in Australia.
Yeah.
Because you say something like that. But yet on the other side of the totem pole, if you went up there and said F Joe Biden, which I know you never would, but if you did, that guy wouldn't have a problem. The same guy wouldn't have a problem with it at all, right?
Yeah, it's wild. It's just, you cannot say anything about dear leader. Like, they will not, the Trump supporters are just so cult. It's a cult, and you cannot criticize dear leader without them just losing their crap and like boycotting my band.
Well, what would you say, Richard? What would you say? And I'm sorry about that. What would you say to somebody like a Ted Nugent, who all he does is talk politics on stage, or the band Stained? I used to like the band Stained. Aaron Lewis is crazy. He's a crazy right-wing lunatic. Yeah. And he goes on stage, and all he does is bash liberals. He writes songs about liberals, but they don't seem to have a problem with that.
I do. I mean, I'm not a big Stained fan anymore, but at the same time, I do respect his talent, and Aaron's always been a nice guy to me, but yeah, he's just wrong. Sadly, the thing that these Trump supporters don't realize is they're being lied to. They're being lied to. He's lying to you about the election. Mm-hmm. He's lying to you about how much money he has and where he gets it. He's a bad guy. he hates democracy. He doesn't care about democracy. He doesn't care about the peaceful transference of power. He doesn't care about that. He just wants to avoid jail, and he's running for president to avoid jail and to be in power and to stay in power for the rest of his life. He doesn't care about America.
Yeah,
he cares about
right.
his rich friends, and he cares about power, and that's it.
And you're not the only person that has, been outspoken politically, and I respect the heck out of you for it. There's a lot of other bands, even a band like an Incubus. You remember the song Megalomaniac, where he's talking about George W. Bush, but I don't believe they got as much flack back then as somebody like you gets now.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's because of social media, or maybe it's a cult? I don't think anybody would say George W. Bush supporters back in the day were cultists. We might have disagreed with them, but I didn't think they were cultists. I feel like in today's era, the Trump base, they're cultists. That's what they are, in my opinion.
It's a different breed of political crazy. They're in a cult. He could poop. He could take a crap on the White House, and people would think it's awesome.
Yeah.
He could kill someone on Fifth Avenue and they'd be okay with it. Well, I guess it's okay. It's a cult. It's bizarre. And it's so embarrassing because listen, when I go around the world and I talk to people, I talk to them. Like I have these VIP, things that I do where I meet the fans one-on-one and I hang out with them and it's like, there's like 20 people there. And I'm just like, when I meet them, I'm just like, what do you think about American politics? And they're like, what are you guys doing? What is wrong with your country? Why is Donald Trump allowed to be running again?
It's a good question.
He's a crook.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing when I talk about they're like Trump's running again. Like he's going to gain. What if he wins the next election? And I'm like, I hope he won't, and it's just, I feel so embarrassed for America when I travel abroad.
I feel, Richard, there's a lot of people that feel that way across the world, that they're laughing at us. That this guy, Donald Trump, is even allowed to run for office again. Very dangerous and weird times we're living in. Again, if you're just joining us, he is the lead singer of one of my favorite bands of all time, Filter, also a founding member of 9 Inch Nails. Do you listen, a lot of other very famous musicians around. Do you have these types of conversations with them? Like, have you ever had a political conversation with Maynard from Tool, or of course you're tight with 9 Inch Nails and of course Trent Reznor? Like, do you ever have these types of conversations with these kinds of people?
I mean, it's brief. I mean, because everyone's a liberal. I mean, like everyone, I'm not going to say Trent's a liberal. I'm just saying, like, most of my friends, most of the people I hang out with are just like, they're just beside themselves with like how did we get here? Like, how in the hell did we get here where Donald Trump is actually someone that's revered by so many people on
how did we? How do you answer that, Richard?
And it's so bizarre because it's not even the Republican Party anymore. It's not like the Republican Party of George Bush. I mean,
right.
it is the whole party is Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's Matt Gaetz.
Of it. Sure. You're
it's
right.
Jim Jordan. It's it's guys like, I mean, Kevin McCarthy was kind of part of the old guard of Republicans that understood that elections mean something and that you're supposed to have, a peaceful transfer of power. You don't protest it and deny it. You don't deny an election, right. And even Kevin McCarthy, I mean, just sycophant, he goes to Mar-a-Lago 2 weeks later because President Trump wasn't eating, remember?
Which is a lie. Yeah. He's a coward. Yeah. And isn't it interesting that McCarthy, right after January 6th, he said Donald Trump should bear some responsibility for what took place. And now he's no longer the speaker. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to out Mike Johnson, who's another weirdo, another right zealot.
he's trying to like get the, he's trying to get the bill across the table with Ukraine funding and
Right.
Taiwan and all that, and Israel and everything. And he's going to have to work with Democrats and get Democrats, which is the way the government is supposed to work, by the way.
Right.
It's you want both sides to participate, and it just can't. It's and that whole thing, it was supposed to be this massive red wave, in the last election, and it turned out to be, they have a majority of one right now.
Richard, do you agree with me that the abortion issue to me is going to be the nail in the coffin for Donald Trump? And I don't know what's going to happen in this Stormy Daniels case. I hope he does get convicted, but I think the nail in the coffin for Donald Trump is he's the reason why Roe versus Wade was overturned. He's the one who put these Supreme Court justices on there, and now he's saying, well, leave it to the states, but he's forced to own it because if not for him, this wouldn't have happened in Arizona. This wouldn't have happened in Alabama. I think it's the nail in the coffin for Donald Trump.
I think there's a few things, but I think the economy is huge. I mean, the economy is raging. It's amazing right now. And I think that, unemployment's at an all-time low.
Right.
Biden's created 15 million jobs. And I think that speaks for itself. I think that President Biden has done a great job. I mean, all this stuff with Israel and Hamas and all that's happenstance. That's not it's not because he's in power.
Yeah. What do you make of that? Where they want to blame Joe Biden for Hamas, a terrorist that's been around since the mid 80s, by the way. Yeah. They want to blame Joe Biden for this Iran response. They want to blame Joe Biden for everything. But
because they have nothing. They have nothing else. I mean, they're trying to impeach him. He didn't do anything. He lent his son some money to buy a truck. It's just absolute bullcrap.
It's nonsense.
And I just can't believe how low and like how just amazingly low everyone on the right has become. Like just Trump's he's a scumbag. He's a liable rapist. He's done unspeakable things to women. I mean, it's just go down the line. You go down the line. It's
evangelical right still supports him.
I know. It's bonkers.
Evangelical Christians. They call themselves wholesome Christians. They talk about God every day. Guys like Charlie Kirk, white supremacist Charlie Kirk, and these people they call
Trump's married 3 times.
Right.
And he cheats on his wife with Stormy Daniels and then pays her off with hush money.
Yeah.
From the campaign.
What does Melania Trump, you think, is going to be going through her mind during this trial? Does she even care anymore?
She's got Louis Vuitton bags. I mean, that's what she ended up with. She ended up with Louis Vuitton bags and Gucci, and and she lives in New York in Trump Tower, and she that's what she wanted when she was when she was from Ukraine.
Richard, I know that you're a big Hillary Clinton fan. You voted for her. Why do you think she lost in 2016?
Disinformation. I think the misinformation that is being spouted on the right is so insane. They have had a campaign against her since Bill Clinton. Mm-hmm. I mean, they want to blame her for what Bill Clinton did, and it's Fox News. It's the Fox Newsification of America. The fact that journalism, I mean, look at Fox News. They have no credibility anymore, and they shouldn't because of the Dominion lawsuit. They lost $800 million in the Dominion lawsuit because of defamation, because they lie. Yeah. If you're a journalist, all your whole thing is I tell the truth and I tell the facts only. That's being a journalist. And they have no credibility anymore because they lie.
You're right. And, going back to Hillary Clinton with the emails, that would be like if you or me, if we decided to delete our phones or computers before any investigation. That's not against the law. And that's what Hillary Clinton did. Whatever she did with her servers was legal. Doesn't matter what she did with them. She could have thrown them off a cliff. But
Yeah.
there was no investigation at that time. She also testified under oath about Benghazi. There were 8 led investigations about Benghazi led by Republicans. And then they found absolutely nothing, just like they're finding nothing with the Joe Biden crime family.
Well, Kevin McCarthy said himself that we created the Benghazi number to mess with her numbers. He said it over the mic. He said it out loud. Like he you know, we created the Benghazi, investigation, and look at her numbers today. Like they did it to discredit her, like based on nothing.
What advice would you give if you worked in the Joe Biden campaign today? If there's something right now that maybe he's not doing to your liking, or something that you think he could do better to help him win in November, Richard, what would that be?
Just keep pounding away that Trump's a liar. He's lying to you. Mm-hmm. He's lying to you. Like, they just have to make that clear. He's a effing liar.
Yep.
And he doesn't care about you. He cares about power, and he cares about his rich friends and his richness, and Vladimir Putin.